Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome back to Season 5 of my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. Now, one thing I've learnt in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. To kick off the new season, my guest today is community leader, life coach and motivational speaker, Dave Letele. Dave is the founder of Buttabean Motivation and also the face of heavyweight media. Most of you will know him. Dave, welcome in. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Okay, a bit of housekeeping just to get us in the right frame. First rule is I am allowed to ask you anything, but you don't have to answer.
Okay. I'm a pretty open book, so...
Yeah. I've read the book. You are an open book. And second, I call this a safe space. So we just do no judgy, which is a good rule for life, isn't it?
100%. That's what one of the mantras of BBM is no judgment.
Yeah, no judgment. You are who you are, you are. Okay, let's warm you up. So we'll do some quick fire. Who would you invite to a dinner party? Anyway, they can be alive or dead. There's no rules.
I'd invite my father, my mum and dad.
Yeah?
I don't get to see them very often with the work we do, so yeah, that's who I'd invite.
And what would you cook for them? Would you cook?
No, I'd probably get something in. Or we'd go somewhere. Yeah.
And what would your perfect day look like if you could?
My perfect day would look like doing nothing on the beach somewhere with my family. That would be my perfect day.
And so you've got your partner?
Yes, I got a wife and 4 children. Four boys, yeah.
4 boys?
Yeah, 22, 18, 14 and 6.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. And are they full of energy? And do you have to burn off some of that energy when they're younger?
Yeah, my 6 and 14-year-old are pretty full on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're at the age where they're just not getting along very much. So yeah, it's full on.
Yeah, I've got 8 and 10-year-old grandsons, and they're quite funny in that they fight all the time, and yet they don't want to be separated, and are happier when they're sleeping in the same bedroom. And it's just like, you two drive me nuts.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's get to know you a little bit better. And for those that are not familiar with your story and your growing up, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it, to say the least?
Yeah, my life's definitely been a roller coaster. I guess that's why we can, relate to so many different people from a gang pad right up into, in the beehive, in the boardroom, we can sort of walk in all circles.
Yeah.
Because I've just lived quite a few lives. But yeah, most people, or some people may know that, where I was born into was a gang background. With my father being the president of the mob, the Auckland chapter. So, like a lot of kids now, that's why I just really relate to what's going on these days. And when we talk about choice, and personal choice, but children don't have a choice where they're born into. People say to me, yeah, but these people shouldn't have kids. So, well, the kids are here.
Yeah. So
how are we going to help them?
Yeah.
Because that's where I started.
I mean, because it was, So, I mean, there can be no doubt about it that you've got crime around you. Did you see much violence?
Oh, look, my father done the best that they could to keep us away, from it. But you can't help but see stuff. But it's I guess it's strange with my father in terms of, his background. Like, he come from a loving home. So it wasn't like a lot of families that are... generations of, being in gangs and crime and addictions. It was really only my father. And, he went, he come from a very strict 7-day Adventist household. My grandparents were amazing, but very strict. They were part of, they moved over from Samoa to give their kids a better shot at life. That's what happened. My father just went off the track. But,
you think he rebelled?
He rebelled. And, he said in other interviews where I've been with him, and we've never really talked about it properly, but he just wanted to be bad.
Yeah.
He did rebel. He was a ward of the state at 9, went through all that state care for years. And, you know, I often joke about my first memory of the police was them raiding my house and stealing all my Christmas presents at 3 years old. That was my first memory of the police, and I hated the police from that day on. Can you blame a kid who that's their first introduction to the system? And I've spoken to Costa, you know, I get along with the police now, we work alongside them, and I've spoken to him and I asked, how can we reduce the trauma on children? Because again, it's not our fault. You know, and if our first introduction to the system is something traumatic like that, you know, we're going to grow up hating it. You know, going to prisons all my life, I hated corrections, you know, because of the way they treated us. We're not the criminals, you know, and even going through stuff with my sister, you know, and you just see the injustice, you know, when she went to prison, her co-offender got the both first-time offenders, all this sort of stuff. My sister got 3 years prison, her co-offender got home detention. What do you think the difference is? You know, so yeah. I forgot
and
that.
No. It's really interesting. And gosh, even recently we've seen. I was reading a story the other week of a woman saying that, you know, police came in to raid her home and that her children were really traumatised. And you've got to sort of think what that is doing to them.
Yeah, and it just you know, that was my start. Like a lot of kids, you know, that was where I started and what I saw, and you know, being surrounded by gangs. And I was lucky though. I was lucky. I mean, you know, my father, I wouldn't say lucky that he went away. He got caught for armed robbery when I was 5, sentenced to 10 years, and I got shipped off to Australia to live with my grandparents. Now, I was lucky. I still had a good family. Extended family that could pick me up, pluck me out of a situation and give me a better life, you know, but I still saw a heck of a lot.
And those are really influential years, that sort of 5 to sort of 10 or 11, aren't they? 0
to 5, I was around to that. 5 to 11, I was with my grandparents. My dad got out. Mum and dad still together now, do a great stuff called with Grace Foundation. But, you know, they didn't really change properly until they were in their 50s. And, you know, I was, you know, so you just see a lot, you know, and you see, I always say to people, be careful what your kids see, because we think they don't see anything, but they see it all, right?
They see it all, right.
And you think, like, you know, when times were tough, I didn't see, you know, my parents, you know, struggle and grind away and budget. I just didn't see it, you know, I just saw crime.
Did you ever think you'd go into the gang?
Oh, there were a few times I sort of, you know, it's funny, you know, growing up, I remember me and my cousin making, like, you know, little, you know, those flannelette shirts, and we're cutting the sleeves off and drawing a patch on the back and rubbing it in dirt. And it was back in those days, it was, you know, the stinkier you were, the better, you know. It's not like now everyone's patches are all nice and, you know, they got gold chains on it and everything. Back in those days, it was, you know, the stinkier you were, you know, it was crazy. So I don't know, I never thought about it. There were times where I've come close, and you know, I've done some you know, things I'm not proud of. But yeah, look, I just feel like it's a miracle that I'm not dead or in prison. And so I just don't waste that miracle.
Yeah, good on you. And we're going to talk a bit more about that. And do you feel like, I mean, you have kind of broken the cycle, right? And I was reading that your son is going to AUT. You must be incredibly proud, right?
Yeah, when I look at my children, that's what breaking the cycle is. You know, they don't have to see life like I saw it through my eyes, you know, and their future's looking bright, and that's what it's about. You know, but how? This is the question, right? How can we help others do the same? Because it's not easy.
So what drives you then to give so much to your community? Because, you know, we're going to talk a bit more about that, but you give a lot. What do you think the drive is behind that?
I just, you know, I just want to help. I just want to help others. I want, you know, people disadvantaged. It's not about the colour, because poverty knows no colour. But you know, I want to disadvantage people that Māori and Pacific are overrepresented in. I want them to understand that it's possible. You know, I want kids born into situations like I was to know that it's possible. You know, when I go down to, we're talking with Leo about Leo before, when I go down to headquarters and spend time in the Viaduct and go to nice places, I want people to understand that that's for them too. You know, and I was lucky that people, I went through some really dark times, and had to navigate very murky waters, but I still had some good friends around me, lifelong friends like David Higgins, and and I still had a good extended family that could help.
Yeah.
But I understand that not everyone has that.
No.
So all I'm trying to do is pay the help that was given to me forward, because I really appreciate the help. Like, if PJ at Habitat for Fitness, Body Talk, Auckland MMA, all these people that invested in me at the start. There was no BBM. I was just a really overweight guy who was depressed and wanted to kill myself. They just wanted to help with no expectation of anything in return, no idea where it would end up. And because they did that, I want to do the same for others.
So how did you pull yourself out of that dark place? Because that's pretty dark, right?
Yeah.
They call it the black dog, right? They call it the black hole because that's what it feels like, hey?
Yeah, and I never, I think you never really get out of it. You sort of get better at dealing with it. But there's times like, at the moment I'm going through a low. You go through highs and lows. This thing you're in terms of the work we do, never switches off.
Yeah.
It's all day, every single day. And it wears on you. Back in those days, what got me out of it was... I just think of my children. I was staying at the time in a sleep out in Clendon in a Grace Foundation community home.
Yeah. And
my housemates was one rapist and a robber. And I was living, the bed broke. It was so heavy. When you flop on the bed after a hard day of training, the legs broke and there I was, mattress on the ground. But I'd just sit there and I'd look at the roof and I'd just try and visualize being at, having my kids again.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. If I can put sad music on and just, feel sorry for myself. But there was a look my son gave me as they left. It was the last time I saw him, where it was like, it broke me. It It was a look where he knew he wasn't going to. This is Tavita, who's just started AUT. It was like a look where, you just think, why did I do this to my kids? They just go far out. But I use that as my fuel. And that's why I encourage people, to use adversity as your fuel.
Yeah.
And that's what got me out.
And sometimes one day at a time's all right too.
Oh, man, it was every hour at a time. Like, man, I just had nothing. Like, I had nothing.
Yeah.
Like, just no money, no family. Lost my kids. I hadn't lived here for a long time, so I didn't really have any friends. Just a couple of really good friends.
Yeah.
And it was a rebuild. And every day I just fought.
Yeah.
I just fought for it.
And so how are you now? Because it's been a really tough week or two, with, you were there with the FSO. That's got to play in your mind.
Oh, man,
it
just took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah.
I wasn't best friends with him. I was a friend and I respected him and I was glad I was there.
Yeah.
It was crazy because I was just walking and I ended up catching up with Leo. We haven't caught up in a while, so we caught up just walking. And him and I didn't even think that, if Vessel's there and Leo and him ran against each other. And so Leo got to see him and have a joke around. But the night before, I'm trying to lose my holiday handles, and I'm training really hard and trying to eat right. And I ended up, going for a 2-hour training session. And I didn't eat, and so I was really tired. So I ended up having 6 shots of coffee, a sugar-free Red Bull, and 2 tablets of pre-workout.
Yeah.
And training, I thought I was having an episode. I was, I have a heart rate monitor on. It went from green to red, like 99% of my max, and it wouldn't come down. I was going, man, I was getting real dizzy. So I thought, I was going to do this. I better take care of myself and pull back a bit. And then I was telling people at the event, I was just going to take it easy. For my friends and that were there. And then that happened, and it just, oh man, just, standing there and watching someone die before your eyes.
And such a young man, and
it was a nightmare.
And
everything's rolling. You think about your family, think about your children. You're thinking about his poor daughters, his wife. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was done properly spiritually for him, as he passed. So that's why if I was going to be anywhere, I was glad I was there when that happened.
But he has been, just such a huge influence in your community and such a great leader. And now there's a hole there. And do you feel a sense of responsibility? I mean, you're doing so much anyway, but, people do look at you for leadership. And I think it's going to be even more so at the moment.
Yeah, I think, we all have to stand together and bind together and fill any gaps that are there. With our work, it's just continuous.
Yeah. So how do you then cope as a leader with that kind of, and I am going to use the word burden because you feel such a drive and a commitment to give to others. How do we make sure that you're looking after yourself?
I try and make sure good people are around me, but it's hard. Like I spoke to someone yesterday who rang me up and just asking for advice on wanting to start something like we're doing down in the Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
And I just said, look, you just got to be careful what you're wishing for because it's this is not easy.
And the work never stops.
It's never it's not even there's no spikes like with political cycles or whatever. It's all the time.
Yeah.
Every minute, every hour, every day, every week. It's relentless.
Yeah.
The work just never stops. And it's like, but where do you stop? And the same things that drive you are the same things that get you down. Most days of my life at the moment I'm pretty down. It's rare that that I'm actually happy.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it.
It's just and there's waves, right? And it's sort of, it is about surrounding yourself with the people that you love and that love you.
Yeah.
And finding those little bits of joy, right?
Yeah, just trying
and that's the kids.
Yeah. My children, being around them and just trying to value that time.
Yeah.
And understand it, man. That's one thing, after watching that with Efessel, man, it's just time.
Yeah.
You just cannot buy it back. There's nothing. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I'm making sure that, on the weekends now I go down to the mount. We've got a little caravan and just spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And then training is the other thing. Training, I don't get drink. I don't do anything. But my going to the pub is just training with my friends and just having a laugh. And I like to train really hard. And someone was actually commented because I said, you got to be careful after what happened. But it's like with me, I like to train that way to the point where I'm just keeling over. But it's just to forget, while I'm like that and I'm like out of breath and I'm just not thinking about anything.
You're switching that head off for a while and it's actually the physical and it's the body.
Yeah, so that's the important thing. While I'm training like that, I'm not thinking about nothing.
Yeah.
So it's important.
But it's as a Minister of Social Development and what was then Child, Youth and Family for 6 years. And I remember the Prime Minister ringing me and saying, I'm going to change your portfolio. And I went, you can't, it's not done. I'm nowhere near done.
Yeah.
And he said, I am going to change. He said, and I'm going to do it as much for your own mental health.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you do before you go to sleep every night? And I said, I lie there and I shed a tear and say, I haven't done enough today. Because there's still a kid out there that's being abused and neglected. And I'm in a really powerful role. And as long as there's one, I haven't done enough today, And he went, that's why you need a break. That's just, but it is, it's a, it's a lot. And you take on other people's pain and you feel a sense of responsibility because you've got a voice and you are a voice for others, right?
Yeah. The hard thing about it's hard with, because I have a voice, it's like I have to speak up, and people think, what this guy just keeps talking about. The stuff that I'm speaking up for, it's not me, it's what we're hearing and what we're seeing, and just giving a voice to people who no one listens to. And, I really do believe a lot of the stuff that I say, and because I'm outspoken and speak up for things, it costs us. It costs our organisation, in terms of getting support from governments, and not just this, it's like all governments, the last ones. And but I never forget that one thing you told me when I was talking to you and asking, why can't we get some support? We need support for what we're doing. And remember you said, just be careful what you ask for. Never rely on government to pay your wages. And I've always that's always stuck in my mind.
Because it can change, right?
Yeah, but
You know,
it'll
and
be
you see
nice
all-
to have them,
Yeah,
be able
be
to
nice-
cover some coffee.
I was going to say, they should be paying something towards it, don't get me wrong, and I think we're going to talk a bit more about that. Hey, look, let's heavyweight media with David Letele, and I'm loving it. And I think I love the most that you get to sort of talk, not from a journalist's perspective, and it's, I don't want to say not professional because it's so professional, but it's also a bit more real. Do you enjoy it? And you've got 2 more episodes coming up,
Yeah,
right?
I love it. It's an awesome extension of of the mahi what we do.
Yeah.
Giving people a voice and just highlighting, because people only know what they know. It's nobody's fault. People up here a lot of the times have no idea what's going on for people down at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the show, because it just highlights what's going on, and this is the reality for so many.
And you're going to talk about crime and health in the next
Crime
2
and gangs
episodes.
crime and gangs is next, and then obesity.
Yeah.
So, and it's 2 things that have been big parts of my life. Well, they all have addictions: crime and gangs and obesity, just not in that order. So
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's gonna be epic.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so Dave Letele is my guest on the podcast today. When we come back, some advice around giving back, changing your life, and what exactly our communities need to thrive. Dave, you're incredible in the service that you give to our community. And in this segment, I want to have a look at the problems society is facing. And I want to look at those in a few different ways, from a personal perspective of how someone changes their life, from a community perspective on how we lift these people up, but also from your perspective on how we can all give a bit more to communities, right? Because it feels like you're standing, you've got an amazing team around you. I've met quite a few of them, but it can feel a bit like you're standing alone at times. Hey, tell me a bit about Buttabean Motivation, though, and how you started that and what it does.
Buttabean Motivation, man. It's funny because it started off as a circus act. The name Buttabean, or Brown Buttabean, was my boxing name. And I got that because when I started boxing, I was 210 kilos. Wow. And David Higgins, who's, I've known him for over 30 years, and his brother come up with the name Brown Buttabean after there's a famous American boxer called Buttabean.
Okay.
Who's a large white guy. I was a large brown guy, so
Was
they
he
called me
called
the
White? Was he called White
No,
Buttabean?
he was just Buttabean. Yeah. And they called me the Brown Buttabean.
Yeah.
And and I started off, as a boxer, as a prize fighter, but really just a circus act before Joseph Parker fought. So I, do outlandish things, and I had a lot of people who hated my guts and getting death threats. And
Oh, really?
yeah, people,
Why? Because you were this big personality,
I was
you
very,
can't do that aggressive.
Yeah, I was like played.
Your mama. No. Yeah.
I played it. That's exactly it. I played a wrestling character, like a heel, whatever, the most arrogant, stereotypical American, what you see on TV boxer. That was me.
Yeah.
I only spoke about myself in the third person. I called out whatever area Joe Parker fought in. And the first one I fought on was Joe Parker versus Brian Minto. I called out all of South Auckland. I jumped on the scale. The fucking thing said error. Couldn't read my weight. And everyone started laughing. And I called out, I said, no one's tougher than the mighty Brown Buttabean. Come at me. And people got really angry and couldn't understand who is this guy coming out of nowhere, calling out. He's saying
It's so funny how people can take something like that so seriously.
I'm going to shoot you on sight. You're a disgrace to all your people. Humble yourself. And the worst one I got was, I'm going to send you some rope to hang your family. That's how it started. That's how Buttabean started. And each fight I'd lose a bit of weight, and it was being played out on TV before Joe fights. So I started getting messages about, what's the secret? How are you doing this? How are you losing all this weight?
Because you could see it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're wearing shorts.
It was
people
playing
can
out on
see
TV.
It. Yeah.
It was right before Joe Parker would fight. I'd be the one before it, and you would see me gradually losing weight. And that's how I started BBM.
Yeah.
I just started
So
off as a
did
Facebook
you lose
group.
that weight because of the exercise and that sort of thing, or was it a conscious?
Well, the secret and what I tell people is stop eating and drinking shit and go for a walk.
Yeah.
That was the secret. And people wouldn't believe me. They said, no, it can't be that easy. I said, well, I didn't say it was easy.
No.
I said it's that simple, and that's how I started. I actually started my journey to losing the weight by, getting up borrowing my sister's car, borrowing petrol money, which was humiliating for me, drove to One Tree Hill and went for a walk around the summit. That's how it started. So I started a group on Facebook called BBM, or Buttabean Motivation, just as a place I could share what I was up to. It just was like a personal vlog, I guess. And, I'd just share what I'm eating, what I'm training. And then we started our first boot camp helping my father-in-law's mate in Trust Stadium out west, your neighbourhood. And then I went to South Auckland helping one lady in a driveway, and that's how it started.
Wow. And now, though, you're doing so much more, right? You've got the food banks, you're cooking for people,
that's like,
feeding. Tell me about some of that.
Yeah, so we started off just as boot camps, and but we understood health is about far more than just exercise. So we started doing programs, but really we sort of exploded in terms of our social side of what we're doing out of COVID.
Yeah.
We understood that, and it actually came from a lady out West Auckland, a social worker friend of mine asked if I could help a mother of four in South Auckland, and their funding couldn't cover South Auckland. You know the way this bureaucracy is.
Yeah, crazy.
And I said, no, of course I'll help, because if we can help, we should. So I helped her, and she, as we're walking out with the shopping, the mum's crying and the kids running up, Mum, we've got food. And it broke my heart because we understood that mum would be one of thousands going into a lockdown. So that day we started our food share, just connecting with the food stuff. So I jumped on LinkedIn. It's actually funny. I jumped on LinkedIn. I never used LinkedIn before, and someone said, you got to be on LinkedIn. And I said, I'm not another one. I can't do another social media. And they said, well, LinkedIn is like Facebook, but for people with money. I said, well, that's where I need to be. I need to be in that spot. And I started searching who's the boss of all these food companies. Found a guy called Chris Quinn, CEO of Foodstuff North Island. Saw we had a mutual contact called Boris Sokratov, the Bulgarian Māori. So I rang up Boris, said, I've lost Chris's number. Can you send it over to me? And he wouldn't give it, but he ended up giving it. And then Chris helped because he could, and they still help to this day. And then out of that, we started our food share. We started our community kitchen. I actually wanted the community kitchen because I didn't want to do a food bank. After the first lockdown, I just wanted to go, okay, let's just make meals. And then because we can make this kitchen, which Leo helped us to do. You helped us to fundraise to do it, actually. And where we could educate and cook healthy meals. But then Delta happened. And after Delta, that long Auckland lockdown here, I just said, we can't stop it now. And then now we're getting into, it's about and give people a hand up with our employment recruitment company, which I haven't announced. I guess I just did then. So we do all these different things, but it's all about health. But health is about having access to good kai, having access to education, having access to, health, to doctors, which we have. It's everything, and all doing it as a family, as a whānau.
So do you think that is, if you like, society's biggest problems at the moment, that it's around our health, it's around access, if you like?
Yeah, 100%. There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many issues in our society at the moment, but one thing I do know is that the solution lies within the community. Any social issue, you'll find a community group there on the ground having an impact with next to no money.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just common sense. Just imagine if you resource those groups properly.
Yeah.
That the impact that could be had.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
But it's just, I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's hard for us.
Instead, we just put in more officials and we just put in more people in Wellington that are sitting there, and most of whom would never have even visited South Auckland, right? And understand, or West Auckland.
Yeah.
And understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah.
It's just so, it's just so frustrating. We've been going for 10 years, and we have a good profile. We have a really good profile, but that doesn't translate to money. And because I'm very outspoken, it's just tough. And trying to, navigate that space and form these relationships. We've had good relationships. Well, we just started getting some traction with the last government.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it, but if they were ever going to do something for us, it would have been their last run. Just started to get traction, and then it's a government change.
Yeah.
And then you've got to form those relationships all over again. So it's just tough going. And that's when I spoke to that guy down in Hawke's Bay. I said, just be careful.
Yeah.
Because having your own gym and all these things, it's. Sometimes I wish I was just training people outdoors again and selling my online fitness app. I'd be on holiday every month. I'd be, spending time with my family. But this is the life we choose. It's a life of service, and this is what happens.
And you see the need, and someone's got to step in, right?
You have to.
do
It's like when the
stuff.
floods happened, right? and like a lot of it was the community groups that were on the ground first helping people, because we see the need, because we're part of the community, and we just react.
Yeah.
We just get it done. And because we have, these different, lots of good corporate connections, we could just scale up. And then, the same thing we did down in Hawke's Bay. It's just all common sense stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. You talk a bit about choice, and you have been, while we've been talking over the last few minutes. And, do you think you made a conscious choice about what you did considering your upbringing? And do you really think we have choice, or do you think that some of our young people are so disadvantaged and have not seen something positive, and as such, it feels like they don't have choices?
Yep. There are so many people, children being born into situations where we talk about being like pole positions in a race. We're born so far behind the start line, we cannot even see it.
Yeah.
And just using examples of, going to emergency lodge last year, where this lodge owner's been paid $2,500 for this family of 5, a solo father, to stay there, where you would not have your dog stay in.
Yeah.
And it's a disgrace. And the 14-year-old son fell through the floor because it's so moldy.
Wow.
You walk in and you see those kids who haven't been to school for months, and you just think, what choice do they have?
Yeah.
Helping a guy at a gas station begging for money, talk to him, or me and my wife and my newborn baby are sleeping in the van over there. I go check the van. Sure enough, there's a lady with the blanket pulled up over her head. She's so embarrassed her husband's begging for money, pulls the blanket down, maybe 1-month-old baby there. So those two parents have made some bad choices to get there, but what choice does that little girl have?
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
How can we help these kids to give them a glimpse?
Yeah.
Hey, and this is what it takes. This is the hard thing, right? It takes long-term strategies, and you need to work with these groups that have the trust of the people, resource them, and walk alongside these families so it's better for the grandkids. But no one wants to. No, that's not popular. That's because everyone's got 3 years to do things, and but that's not how you fix these problems.
But for so many of them, it's taken them generations to get into the dysfunction and the disadvantage that they're in.
If you think that there's, when you look at down, I'm connected to a lot of people down in Hawke's Bay. You think at 9 years old, kids are getting patched. I mean, come on. There's no choice. It's just like you're just born into so much struggle. You're surrounded by people that you don't even know what success looks like.
Yeah.
Your idea, like for all of us from growing up, our idea of success was having a nice car and money, and we would never think that would be possible without having to sell drugs. It just wouldn't even enter our mind. So that's why I always get upset when people who make it out, not just sports stars, but people like me or business people who have make it out, who don't come back. We have to show these kids that it's possible to have these nice things, but then how? And that's the hard thing. You have to walk alongside families and accept that it's not going to be immediate success.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Because it's like you said, it's generations this is taken. So it takes generations to get out of it. But it is possible. We have to, the longer we leave it, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, I always think it's like all these political parties just have to come together and say, okay, this is what we're going to have to do to fix these issues. This is a long-term plan. Let's just agree.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's going to take. And the community has to be the focus though.
Yeah, it does.
And until that day happens, nothing's going to get better.
Your own parents, if you like, turned their lives around or turned away from, and your mother's talked about it, right, in the chapter in your book, and talked and moved away from crime and moved away from, that kind of life that they'd been living. What message do you think, or what about people that are sitting there and going, I'm not liking the life I'm living? Is there a lesson in there from them as to how they can do it? Because it was all they'd known, right? Your mum talks quite openly about being in a really, really tough childhood for her. And at times, they made a choice to move away from it.
Our family, my parents are right. My late sister Vicky, she founded Grace Foundation.
Yeah.
My family, they're in it, and they run it, and it helps people, women's refuges, people out of prison, gives them somewhere to go. They have rehab. And it's faith-based, because prison's not rehab. So we have to understand. It's not rehab. It's a punishment.
Yeah.
Yep, which you have to have punishment. but it's not rehab.
No.
So we needed these programs like that run by people who have lived it, so that they can see, hey, if these guys can change, I can too.
Yeah.
But they've really done amazing. My mum, she was a street kid from Bennydale when she met my dad when they were 13. My dad was 14. Been together ever since. Been through some really rocky roads, and my other uncle, Uncle Lay, who was with us whenever he wasn't in prison. They've both, all of those have changed, and if they can, I mean, they were really out there, and it just shows. But one thing with my dad and uncle, I was talking to someone about this who's in the midst of changing too, and I said to him, like, when I look at my dad and my Uncle Lay and how they've turned around, because they were bad dudes.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really, the most important thing they did to change was that they really humbled themselves. Like, it was no longer about material things.
Yeah.
Didn't care about nice cars. Everything was given. They just stopped. Whatever they were up to, they stopped it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And obviously, all the material things that you acquire from that lifestyle, they go.
Yeah.
And they just accepted it, you know. And it was hard for us because we're used to nice things too. But and I think that was the biggest thing with my dad and mum and my uncles. They really just humbled themselves and weren't worried about material things and just started. They just changed, and it starts by day, and just getting up. And I really encourage anyone going through that. I mean, that's what I did. I just started. I got up and just went for a walk.
Yeah, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Hey, so there'll be people that are listening that are wondering how they can make a difference. So let's be quite blunt. Some of them can make a difference by donating. Yeah? And there's a way to do that, and they can do that. Then others will donate their time more and their resources. And, if there's people out there that want to make a difference in their community, are they better off to sort of start something themselves or come and join people like you? Because you do worry that there can be such a multitude of different things going on that it can get quite confusing. And do we just need to knuckle in and come and support and get in behind? And
I mean, if you're wanting to help, then help.
Yeah.
I always think if you can help, you should. There's so many people that can help a lot but don't. But then there are a lot of people that like I think of Ted Manson Foundation, a big supporter of ours. Leo Malloy, who a big supporter of ours. If you can help, you should. If we all live that way, this world will be a better place. If you can donate, go and donate. It's just search online or on Facebook and just search community groups or whatever issue you want to, just search it. And you'll see a groups there doing the mahi.
And making a difference.
And making a difference. Just support them. Just get behind them. Be a part. Like, if you're a part of us with BBM, you're a part of a movement. And just be happy. To be a part of something great, helping so many people.
I like that. Dave, the podcast is called Ask Me Anything, and so far I've done all the asking. So this is that one little bit where you get to ask me something if you want to.
Okay. Next year, when you run for mayor, what's going to be your slogan? I'm not sure I am running for mayor, even though Leo tells everyone I am every chance he gets. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head right now. Should we go for you need a mayor who will care? That's a good one.
Just make that up.
We do.
We do, that's for sure. Okay, Dave, thank you for joining me today. If people want to find out more about you and the community programs you're running, where can they go? You're on just about every social media, aren't you? Yeah,
just, on Facebook, I'm under Brown Buttabean. And just remember, Buttabean spelled B-U-T-T-A, Buttabean. Or search me on LinkedIn, Dave Letele, L-E-T-E-L-E.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so go and do that. And when are we expecting those episodes of Heavyweight with Dave Letele? When's...
It'll be later in the year.
Yeah.
We'll be starting very soon. Well, I'll be starting. The team are already hard at work with all the research, but these episodes are going to be next level. The access we have to people in crime and gangs and also obesity, all different types of people on their journeys is second to none.
Cool. Okay, and that's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. You can get in touch with me by emailing askpaula@nzherald.co.nz. Please feel free to send me through your questions for the podcast or any thoughts you have. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. You can read my weekly column in the Herald on Sunday. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.